The other day I opted in for a playtest of a game called The Last Starship, and a couple of days later I received a message letting me know that I'd got into the playtest. After a little bit of mucking around, some clicking, some frustration, and to be honest with you, closing the game a few times, I finally worked out, I finally watched a video and that gave me the premise of the basics of what I needed to accomplish. So here's a little video that gives you a look at the Last Starship and where it's at, and also acts as a bit of a, hey, this is how you get started. So let's get right into it. I was drawn to the Last Starship, well, to be honest, because I was creating a game much like this about 4 years ago, and I just called it Ship Builder. So in my game, you could create floors using these different types of floors and then add in components. I had a few basic ones like engines and weapons and power plants, and you could also create some internal walls by holding down the control key and then clicking with the left mouse button. Didn't work on everything, but it was okay. Then you could take it out into space and you could fly it around. You could also click on an avatar button and walk around the ship, you know, as the avatar, as the pilot or the captain or whatever. You could shoot the weapons, but that was pretty much all there was to it. Save your ship template, and then you could load it back in. And I guess the goal later on was to expand it so you could create your own ships, maybe share them with your friends, and maybe fly around in a universe and do all these cool things. So looking at this Last Starship, I thought, wow, this kind of looks like a proper version of this. Maybe a little bit of mixed in with, you know, the old RimWorld Dwarf Fortress feel where you've got crew members cruising around doing jobs that you give them. So when I first loaded in, I could not work out how you created a ship. It seemed really obvious. There's no tooltips or anything. There was no tutorial, but it seemed really obvious. I would draw a hull, then I would draw some floors, and then I would put things on the floors. But it just didn't pan out that way. Turns out that what you really need to do is draw an entire hull completely filled in, and then you use the floors tool to allocate where the floor part of the ship's going to be. So you can also have some solid sections of the hull whilst having just whatever portion you want be hollow in the middle. After you've done that, you can also put down walls, or you can reshape the walls to make them look nicer, and that's all lovely. From here, you start placing all of the basics to make your ship actually work. So what you need is a reactor, you need some sort of fuel tank, and you need a fuel loader. You'll need some sort of oxygen, so quite simply put in an oxygen loader and link it up to a vent. You'll then need an engine, which is providing your thrust, and you'll need 2 thrusters, I think one on each side, in order to maneuver. To get this all working is actually pretty simple. You have to use the concepts of cables and pipes though. So number one is you place down all of those things, and then you place down some fuel canisters and some oxygen canisters. Then you put down a couple of spacesuits, you put down a couple of crew. What the crew will do is pick up the spacesuits and put them on, and then they'll go and pick up the oxygen and put them into the oxygen loader, and the fuel and put it into the fuel loader. Now, using the pipes, you make sure that your fuel loader is linked up to your tank, and your tank links up to the reactor, and then you also need to have fuel going into your engine. So once that's done and there's fuel going to the reactor, then the reactor will power up, and once the reactor is powered up, then you can hook it up using cables to the engine and the thrusters and the air vent, and then all of those things will turn on. So you'll have air being created, and that will slowly fill up the ship. Depending on the volume, the size of the inside of your ship, you may need more than one air vent. And I think in the long run, you probably also need CO2 scrubbers, and you can also pipe those CO2 scrubbers into something that creates oxygen. And that's pretty much all you need to do. So once they're all up and running, you can just go into the tactical mode and click, and then also click on the thrust down the bottom, and your ship will turn and it will move, and your crew members can live inside without their spacesuits anymore. If you also want to put in docking ports on the side, they're kind of finicky to put down because it doesn't really indicate where the door is going to be, but if you want to put them down, that also allows your crew members to get outside to do external work. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So down to what I thought about the Last Starship. It's definitely a playtest. It's extremely clunky. There's a lot of things missing. You can't save the game and then load it, though you can export your ship and then bring it back in again. So the shipbuilding works okay. I quite like the way the crew walked around doing stuff. It's a neat idea, building like a spaceship rather than building a base, and then and you use crew to go around doing what makes sense. And overall, the aesthetic is pretty cool, but obviously very much a work in progress. I look forward to what they do with like a universe to live in and actually use your ship in the future. What is there once you can puzzle it out makes sense and is a little bit of fun. And I do have high hopes for the future. I'm looking forward to playing it, and perhaps I don't have to keep doing my ship builder game because this will do it for me. So, what do you think? Did you get into the playtest? Have you had a look? Have you watched other videos? Was this useful? Regardless of all of that, I guess this just brings us to the end of the video. As always, be awesome to each other, have a great day, and I will catch you in the next whatever. See ya.